All right, well, welcome back, and it has just been an incredible couple of weeks. We've talked a lot about abortion on this show and the March for Life, and we have another great guest with us. She's with Texas Right to Life, and she was there on the ground during the D.C. March, Rachel Bush. How are you, Rachel?
I'm doing well, back in Texas after an awesome weekend in Washington.
That's awesome. So just give everybody a heads up a little bit about what you do with Texas Right to Life and who you guys are.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, my name is Rachel Bush. I am an education associate with Texas Right to Life, and Texas Right to Life is the oldest and largest statewide pro-life group in Texas, and we seek to protect innocent human life through political, legislative, and educational means. Now, most people understand what we're talking about when we say we're working to protect life through legislative means, obviously by passing pro-life legislation. By political means, we mean we're trying to get those great pro-life men and women elected to state and federal office who we know will protect life. But often when we say we try to do that by educational means, they want to know, well, how? What do you mean by that? So our biggest programs in our education department are our Dr. Joseph Graham Fellowship for college pro-life leaders and our Team Life Camp for high school students. And so this weekend, while we were in Washington, D.C., we had 19 of our Dr. Joseph Graham fellows with us. And the fellowship started in 2008 with 8 students on 8 campuses. And we knew that the culture is not going to change unless college students are on their campuses actively using their voices to protect those innocent lives. That's where the culture changes, is on college campuses. And so we established a scholarship to give to those pro-life leaders who are willing to use their voices to do just that. And so these students give at least 50 hours every semester, usually many more hours than that, to their college pro-life groups. And they are educating their peers on campuses. They are bringing in pro-life speakers. They are sometimes even establishing their own scholarships to give to pregnant and parenting students on their campuses to encourage them to choose life and continue their education. So these students are, the cream of the crop. They are the leaders of this movement. And so we have about 77 students in our program now at 28 campuses across Texas. And so in their senior year of college, we invite these students to go to Washington, D.C. with us and to experience this event, this March for Life with hundreds of thousands of other people, most of them their own peers that are also in college across the country. And so it's really a reward for them just to say thank you for all of that hard work that they've done throughout their college career to protect life. So yes, we took 19 students with us this week, and we just had a great time, and we toured the monuments, and we participated in the march, and we just had a wonderful time. It was really rejuvenating for everyone, including myself.
So what was your first impression this year? Was it bigger than your previous experiences, about the same? What's your feelings on the grounds from just a general energy and crowd-sized experience?
Sure. So this was my third experience at the March for Life, and every time that I'm there, it seems to have grown larger. So I haven't heard any official estimates yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear that there were 800, 900,000 people there. It was incredible. So many people, so much joy and zeal for life. Now, the interesting thing was that there was a different energy because President Trump addressed the march. He addressed the march from the Rose Garden at the White House, and he's the first president to have done so, to have addressed the march. And he gave a really great speech, and so there was just a different energy, knowing that the administration is supportive of our movement and of what we're trying to do to protect life. So that was encouraging, and I think everyone was just really excited to be there and kind of witness that history of a sitting president addressing us and saying thank you for what you're doing. So that was great.
So what was your impression from the students? You've got some folks that have never done this before. It's their first impression. You have Paul Ryan and Mike Pence. So you have a very high profile political figures that are speaking, that kind of thing. What is your impression from the students as they see the political side, that these high profile figures speaking in a similar mindset that they believe in.
Right. The students, I think, were overwhelmed at times. They
Yes.
couldn't believe that they were actually present there. Now, some of the students had been to the March for Life before, so this wasn't new. However, we had a handful who had never even been to Washington, D.C. before, and several of them told me that the March for Life, that attending the March for Life, was just their dream. This was something they had looked forward to for years. And so not only to be there and to be present with, like I said, hundreds of thousands of people who believed in the same things that they did, and then, like you said, to be addressed by the Speaker of the House and the President and the Vice President, they, like I said, they were just overwhelmed by it, and just seeing the support, because it's easy to feel like you're alone sometimes in this, especially on college campuses, because
sure,
they're so
absolutely,
little and they receive a lot of vitriol at times from their own peers of like, why are you doing this? Why are you shaming women? And it's easy to feel alone and to think, gosh, this is such a big thing that I'm doing by myself. And then they went and they were there, and these people in such high profile roles in our government are saying, you can do this, we appreciate you, we need you to be doing this work, was really moving for them.
It's interesting you say that, especially coming from the great state of Texas, where we kind of view you as a pretty pro-life state, even though we know that battle is daily, especially on an individual basis. But compared to other areas of the state, especially some that I go to that definitely are liberal-leaning, voting Democrat, and definitely very unfriendly to the pro-life movement as a larger scale. It's interesting that even the Texas folks are still kind of feel so isolated and can feel so alone in their mission.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. We do have a reputation for being a very pro-life state, and we are blessed in a lot of ways that we aren't necessarily controlled by a liberal bias, even in our state government. However, there are always forces at work that are trying to undermine what we're doing,
sure,
and trying to kind of turn the political tide here in Texas. And so we always have to be combating that. And even, obviously we're in Texas Right to Life, we're involved in the political landscape of Texas. And so even it's hard we have to remember that even the Republicans who, we think just because the platform says we protect life, even them sometimes, they're tempted to kind of thwart our movement. And so we just have to be constantly vigilant. And I think that's what the students have realized. They've the rose-colored glasses have kind of come off. And so they realize, this is something we always have to be vigilant of and always have to be aware of, that we can't let our guard down. We're always going to have to be speaking up for this, even when it seems to be comfortable. We think,
sure,
well, I go to a conservative campus, or I live in Texas and it's a red state. Well, no, there's always work to be done. And so our students are aware of that, and they're so passionate, and they're really going to be the ones to change this and bring, abortion to an end in our country, I think.
We're talking with Rachel Bush about the March for Life event over the weekend in Washington, D.C. in particular, and the Right for Life group there in Texas. Now, just to piggyback on what Rachel just finished saying, I'll link to two stories on the Global Dispatch that we've covered. Obviously, we talked about Texas. While it may be a very pro-life leaning state, this is the Hail Satan chanting that happened during the battle over the Texas abortion bill a few years ago. And if you would also remember, we also talk about college campuses, even schools as strong Catholic pro-life histories like Georgetown, inviting Planned Parenthood to come and speak and things like that. We've covered these stories. So, folks, the battle is so deep and entrenched and so extreme. And when you go into this environment, Rachel, what are some of the other speakers that impacted you? Was it Pam Tebow spoke, Matt Burke, some of the different figures that were there, different arenas of life, whether it be sports and entertainment, those kinds of things. Were any of the other speakers there that particularly really, really powerful, or had a certain line or certain moment that was really penetrated you?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the speakers who still stands out to me from this weekend, and actually one who most of the students said was their favorite, was Congresswoman Herrera Butler, I believe is her name. She hails from Washington State, and she was there with her husband and her 2 young children, and she shared the story of her first pregnancy. And at about 20 weeks, the doctors had told her that her child's kidneys were not functioning, and that they essentially gave her the decision to abort or to induce early to prevent the suffering of her unborn child. And she said no, and she said, I'm going to seek other second opinions and find someone who will do something to save my child. And I mean, they gave her such a small percentage of a chance for her child to live, and yet by the end of the story, you realize that this child that she's talking about is her 4-year-old that was standing next to her. So her daughter lived despite all of these people saying that she should just have an abortion and to end the child's suffering. And then you see next to her the child in question who is healthy and fine and thriving, and that was extremely moving. And all the students said that was probably their favorite speaker of the day, because she just gave so much hope to a situation that often is filled with such hopelessness.
I want to ask your opinion as well from your experiences. I think this is definitely an area that we don't spend enough time propping up the positive and the survival stories. And one of the things for me that's always, I don't want to say a turning point, but it just rooted me even deeper into almost becoming an activist. And that is, I come from a science background. I work in the scientific field and that kind of thing. So it seems like the abortion conversation is the one area where we don't actually take advancements of science into consideration into this argument, because now we have babies that are being born premature, 22 weeks, 26 weeks, that range that was unheard of before, are now surviving without a problem in many cases. I mean, it's just incredible how technology has advanced. Has there been a story or something that you can reflect on that kind of struck you the same way? And what can we do differently to communicate those stories to kind of really help reach people?
Right. Well, to communicate those stories, we just need to be open to sharing them. Like, hearing, like I mentioned, the Congresswoman, hearing her story. Mm-hmm. Since I've been back and I've been talking to friends or family who have asked me how the weekend was. That, like you mentioned, that story specifically, and stories like that are ones that are just not shared as often when we talk about abortion, and that tends to be one of the hard cases that people will make an exception for abortion for. Mm-hmm. So sharing those stories of they were given this hopeless situation, and then because of the love that they had for their child, they sought another way, and they found it. So like the Congresswoman said, her daughter was the first baby that is on record to have survived this diagnosis that she was given. And so she was the first, but she won't be the last. So because of the love they had for their child, now there are doctors who can look back at this case and try the same things to save other babies with this diagnosis in utero, save their lives. And so we have to, those stories are amazing, right? But we can't keep them to ourselves. So that's the kind of thing that we need to be telling our friends about who say that they're pro-life, but they hold for those kinds of exceptions to abortion. Or even our friends who are out just totally pro-choice and are for abortion in almost any case. Hearing stories like that and showcasing that, I think is incredible, and really starts to make people rethink, especially abortion in that case, when it looks like there's no hope for the unborn child. So those stories, we just have to be willing to share them.
We definitely need to, seek out those stories that are really going to resonate and really penetrate some of those arguments a little differently. So, Rachel, let's wrap up by talking a little bit more about Texas Right to Life. You want to talk about the website address, social media, some other ways they can get in touch and find out more about the organization?
Yes, absolutely. So anyone interested in what we do, whether that be legislatively, politically, or through educational means, as I've been discussing, can find us at our website, TexasRightToLife.com. That's all spelled out. We're also present on Facebook at Texas Right to Life. And then we also have a Twitter and an Instagram. And I believe those are just Texas Right to Life as well. If you'd like to search for us in the search field, you'll find us very easily. And we're always posting updates about our student programs and also our advancements in the Texas legislature and any endorsements for the upcoming primary elections here in Texas. And we do also endorse for some federal elections as well. So anyone who lives in Texas and is looking for their pro-life option for voting, definitely check us out. And for anyone who knows any high school or college students who want to get more involved in the pro-life community in their hometown, definitely check out our website and our social media pages.
Texas Right to Life, Rachel Bush giving us a perspective on the March for Life there in D.C. It is just a great group. We pull from their press releases all the time. They're really helping us keep our nose to the grindstone of covering some of these amazing topics and issues all over the country. Because if it's happening in Texas, it's happening somewhere else, folks. And it's been great talking with her. And, we're going to go to break. We're going to come back, talk about some other hard-hitting stories. We're going to have some more news. And we're going to get into some entertainment the latter half of the show here, talk about some of the upcoming movies. Talk about Samson, God's Not Dead 3, the third film there, coming out as well. So we have a lot of other lighthearted stuff as well to kind of close out the show. So please stay with us.